What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about some moves that all DBs cannot guard and are afraid of wide receivers using. So I hope this video helps you guys out. I hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver or a quarterback and would like to train with us this offseason, we are going to be traveling out to 15 more cities across the U.S. for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver camps. Next up on our camp tour, we're going to be coming out to San Francisco, then Miami, Las Vegas, Charlotte, Portland, Dallas, Nashville, Chicago, Buffalo, Atlanta, Houston, Philly, Detroit, Boise, and Los Angeles. So if you guys would like some more information, if you're local to one of these cities and would like to train with us, check out that very first link in the description below where you can sign up and get more information on it. Again, very first link in that description below. Let's get started. So the first move we're going to be talking about here is something called a diamond release. So a diamond release is something that you are going to use when you have an inside shade press coverage DB and you have to run a slant. You are going to be attacking this DB's outside shoulder, his outside hip. The goal is to get him to flip his hips open to the fade, and we slip back underneath to win on this slant, maintaining spacing and maintaining timing with my quarterback. Every single move that you use, fellas, as a wide receiver, whether you're trying to be more creative, whether maybe you're just trying to be efficient off the ball, you have to keep timing with the QB. That is the most important thing. So you also have to keep spacing on the play. Is if you're running a route, and let's say it's a double slant concept, and we have an inside shade press coverage DB. This DB's whole goal playing inside shade is to prevent the inside route. Don't let you run a slant, a dig, a post, force everything to the outside where his help is. And his help is going to be the sideline. Because if you run out of bounds, you're not helping anybody out. That's where the DB wants you to go. So a lot of receivers, when they have to run a slant versus this look, they'll try to force it. They'll try to just square up the DB and cut in front of his face. That DB is going to get hands, because that's obviously his goal in press, to disrupt timing by getting hands on us. And he's going to keep his leverage. The second you start to go to the inside, he's going to move to the inside. So even if you get around him and you break on this slant and you're taking this stem way to the inside, you're running into the slot receiver running a slant. You're running into other linebackers in the middle of the field. You have to make sure that you keep spacing. So that's where this diamond release comes into play. So a diamond release, they call it this because it kind of looks like a diamond in a way. Like it's this portion of, if you were to draw a diamond, the 45-degree angle to the outside. Now, when you attack on this 45-degree angle, you have to angle that 45 at the DB's outside shoulder and outside hip. The goal is to get him to flip open his hips and make him think we are running a fade. Now, this can build into other routes. You could use this in other situations, which we are going to talk about throughout the remainder of this video with these other route clips that we have. So takes off to the outside. He attacks the outside shoulder. The three things that are going to get this DB to open up, because obviously that's our goal. Our goal is to get him to open up, because no DB, whether he's press coverage head up, inside shade, outside shade, wants to get beat over the top, especially in the red zone on some kind of like head top fade over the shoulder, right? So we have to attack his outside shoulder. We got to run in full stride. You got to make sure your hips and your shoulders are committed to the fade, and you got to run hard. All of those things are likely to get this DB to open up his hips and flip to the fade. So when you take off to the outside, this receiver adds a little bit more creativity to it, which is something that you guys can add. On a diamond release, he throws his eyes back to the inside to sell like what? To sell like it's a goal line fade, not even necessarily like it's a deep fade. So maybe you're on the 50-yard line and you've ran a couple 4 verts plays where your job is just to get outside, run downfield, and we're going to take a shot. Yeah, you could put your head down, eyes forward, run as hard as you can and get this DB to flip. In the red zone, they're more terrified of the goal line jump ball fade than anything. So adding that peek back to this move is a great way to get that separation from this DB. So he does it. Again, remember, I would recommend only taking about 3 steps to the outside. This receiver takes like 5. I recommend taking 3 because I feel like it's faster, especially for you high school and youth receivers who need to get off the ball fast. But that's the diamond release. Now, one other thing too, fellas, when we have some cushion between the DB, let's not just take off and go run to a 45 and leave this big gap. Let's close the space first. Let's step on his toes, then let's attack to the outside so there's not this big gap of space. Because if he runs this diamond release, and let's say instead of being here, he's maybe a yard over here, that's way too much space for us to slip back underneath. All that DB has to do is speed turn, and he beats us to the spot of the slant. So let's make sure we close the distance, bring that line of scrimmage to him, and we're going right at his outside shoulder and outside hip. So let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job by Calvin here, getting that DB to flip his hips and winning on the slant. Okay, so now next example we're going to be looking at here is from Amari Cooper, and he is going to be running a sluggo route. So what all great wide receivers are able to do is pair their releases and pair their routes together. They're able to make their routes look the exact same, which is what makes them unpredictable. You look at the top guys like Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, all those guys, they do simple things with their routes. They're just so identical that it makes it very hard for a DB to predict what they're doing. So he has to run a slant and go versus inside shade coverage here. So let's watch what he does. So he comes off the ball, takes a diamond release, slips underneath the DB, gets him to crash, and then he's able to win over the top on this fade because he makes it look the same. We get this question all the time, like, how would I run a slant and go versus inside press? How would I run a whip route versus inside shade press? And my answer will always be, it's how you would run the first initial move. How would you run a slant versus inside shade press? It's the diamond release like we talked about, right? So if you have to run a double move, let's make it look the same. Let's make it unpredictable for that DB. Because trust me, guys, DB is a very hard position. It's one of the hardest positions on the field. What they are constantly looking for is tendencies that we have that give away our routes. So let's say every time we run a slant, we do a diamond release when we have inside shade press. Okay, we show that on film. DB maybe sees it a couple times in the game. Okay, that's a good release to use, right? But let's say every time we were running a slant and go, and let's say we were a slant and go heavy team, and I'm just using this as an example. This could help out any receiver who likes to run a double move, build off a single move that you guys have. Because again, guys, especially at the high school youth level, offenses are not that complicated. You don't have a million routes to remember. You run maybe 4 to 6. Honestly, that's probably about as many as you run. Obviously, I know there's 9 routes, but you're not running all those routes. It's simple. But if you can make your routes look the same, it is hard for this DB to get a leg up on us. So if he's studying film and he sees that every time you run a sluggo, you do this release where you force it, break inside, and then go up, he's not believing that it's a slant because that's not how you would run an actual slant. You have to be unpredictable. So that's a great job of Amari Cooper doing this right here. He attacks him, diamond release to the outside, slips underneath, DB overcommits, and he's able to win over the top on that sluggo. Okay, so now next example we're going to be looking at here is CeeDee Lamb using a rocker step. So a rocker step is another move that I would say DBs can't guard if you execute it correctly. So a rocker step is essentially like a 1-2 at the top of the break where you would step in the direction you are going first. So Lamb is going to be running a corner route here. So instead of him just cutting off of his inside foot, which would be his left foot, he's going to step with his right foot first. He goes right, then left. It's a 1-2 at the top of the break. So let's play this full speed, then we'll break down the mechanics. So he comes up, 1-2, gets the DB to commit inside, and then he's able to win on this corner route. So obviously when it comes down to being a great receiver, a receiver who's tough to guard, tough to handle from a DB perspective, again, it's all about being a salesman. On your routes, and we're going to talk about this later as this video progresses, if you're running like a comeback route, what are you trying to sell? You're trying to sell the fade. Like the last example, you're trying to run a sluggo, what are you trying to sell? The slant. On this one, you're running a rocker step corner, you're trying to sell like we are running a post. So the first and second step of this move have to look exactly like a post. So when he's going up into this break, you see the first step of the rocker step. Again, you want to step in the direction you are going first. So he would step with his right foot. He's going to the right, so he's got to step with his right foot first. He steps 1. Now, and that's how you guys don't get confused on this move. I see a lot of receivers, they'll be running this route or trying to use this move, and they overthink it. So they either start chopping their steps and they take like 3 rocker steps, they just take 1 hard step, step in the direction you're going first. It's a crossover at the top of the route. So he steps first. Now, again, we have to make this look exactly like a post. So it has to be a hard cut. It's got to be inside of our frame. And as soon as that foot hits the ground, what do you think you want to do off of it? You want to push. You want to push off of it to sell the inside fake. Now, when you push to the inside, a DB is not going to be watching our feet. That's why it's important that our feet are sudden and explosive. A lot of times receivers over-exaggerate the cut with their feet. They'll come out and they'll take this big first step where they'll reach way out in front of them. Their heel will hit the ground first. Their foot's way outside their body frame. We never want to get to that point, you guys, because when you step way outside your frame and you land on your heel first, you can't push off of that cut. You're just going to take a bunch of choppy, meaningless steps and lose speed out of the break. I want to have speed into the break. I want to create energy with the break to give me speed out of the break, right? So it's speed, energy, speed. That's what we want on all of our routes. So that's why that first step's got to be inside your frame. Now, what part of your foot do you think you want to strike on? Ball of the foot or middle arch of the foot? Because that is where you can push the most. And when you push the most to the outside, you can sell with the upper half. That upper half should be loose. The upper half should be relaxed. You should almost try to turn your belly button to the inside on this fake while keeping your feet inside your frame. It's about explosion with the lower half, quickness with the lower half, selling with the upper half. That's textbook there by Lamb. Let's play this thing again, full speed. So on a rocker step, fellas, you're stepping in the direction you are going. If you're going to run a post and use a rocker step, you would step with your left foot first, then break off the right. I like this rocker step on corners, posts, outs, and ins. Those are probably my four favorite times to use this move. All past about 8 yards. All you can be used against off coverage, press man. You have them stacked. You could use it against zone. That's why this is one of the best moves to use. This is a great example from Lamb selling that move and getting separation. All right, so now next example here is going to be of Elijah Moore running this like stop or curl route. And guys, you will be unguardable as a receiver if you can master the art of stopping on a dime. I think that ties into a quote-unquote move that DBs are not able to guard, because if you can stop on a dime and sell the route until the last possible second, you will not give that DB something called an indicator. DBs thrive off of indicators. DBs are looking for what we do wrong on our routes to make them look good. You should have the attitude as a receiver. It's not about what the DB does right. It's about what we do wrong as a receiver. What did I do wrong on this route that allowed this DB to make a play? So let's look at this example here from Elijah Moore. He comes off the ball. Everything looks the exact same until it is not. Everything looks like a fade until it's not, and he drops his hips. So a DB is looking for three specific indicators. One, he's looking for right before the break point, you start to take choppy steps with your feet. So many receivers do that because they're preparing for the break. They're not confident in the break. They're not confident in dropping their hips. And we're going to talk about the hip drop mechanics in a second here. But they're not confident in themselves. They're not confident in the break. They haven't repped it enough. So they break down super early, and as soon as you start to chop your stride, you lose your speed. And when you slow down, DB slows down, and he reacts much easier when he's not running full speed with his gate open, aka his hips open to the fade. So we got to make sure we maintain stride. Another thing they look for is because at the break point, what do we got to do? We got to drop my hips, and we have to drop quickly. So a lot of receivers right before the break point will pop up. They'll raise their chest. They'll raise their chin because they're trying to snap down so hard. But when you raise up, again, a DB is supposed to be watching what? Our hips. He sees my hips raise, he's going to settle, and then we end up running right into him. So we got to keep good body language, good stride, and obviously speed. So many receivers love to slow down. I don't know who came up with the bad advice of, run 85% on your routes. You should never go full speed on your routes. Guys, 85% going up against a DB who is fast is nothing to him. He's going to be jogging with us, and we're not going to be able to get space. There are times where you maybe want to slow the tempo down of the route. Absolutely. But in a case like this, you got to go because that's specifically what that DB is looking for. So we're going full speed now at the break point. When you don't have any indicators, this DB has no leg up on us. Now it's just about getting into the break fast because a DB is reacting off of us. So when he sees my hips drop, he's going to slow down. So what do you think you want with your hip drop? Do you want it to be slow or do you want it to be fast? You want it to be fast. You want to be aggressive because being aggressive with your hips, you get to a low spot so you can make a sharp cut. I think we all have done this before. Like you've ran up to a cone and you tried to run tight around a cone. You guys have probably all done like a figure 8 drill where you're running in circles around the cone. You get low at the cone. You break down. Because when you're low, you have a lower center of gravity and you make a sharp cut. But why not get to that low center of gravity quickly so this DB doesn't have time? You slowly sink your hips, the DB has more time to react. Because I bet you he's reacting faster than we will if I have that quote-unquote sink of my hips. I need a violent drop of my hips. I need to snap down with my hips. Think there's a string attached to your chin. Somebody pulls the string down to your knee. You're getting low and you're getting there quickly. So the DB has less time to react. This creates energy. This allows me to stop quicker on a dime, and I did what I needed to leading up to its selling fade. Guys, if you can master those 3 phases of the route, selling, breakpoint, acceleration, it is going to be very tough to guard. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Moore pushing up to the fade, putting the brakes on, and then winning on this route. All right, fellas, really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like to come out and train with us in 15 more cities across the U.S., check out that very first link in the description below. We're coming out to Charlotte, Houston, Philly, Boise, all over the country. So check out that very first link in the description below if you're local to any one of these cities. We'd love to have you out and love to work with you. Again, very first link in that description below. I'll see you guys next time.